Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Krishna Rukmini Jaya Satya Bhama Krishna Rukmini Jaya Satya Bhama Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe Jaya Damodara 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 Jaya Damodara Jaya Jaya Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Kacharya Ashtottara Shatashi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Samsthapakacharya, Savior of the whole world, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Gaur. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtike. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. Chapter 25, entitled The Glories of Devotional Service. Text number 41. Na anyatra mat bhagavataha nanyatra mad bhagavataha pradhana purusha ishwarat pradhana purusheshwarat atmanaha sarva bhutanam atmanas sarva bhutanam bhayam tivram nivartate bhayam tivram nivartate nanyatra mad bhagavataha pradhana purusheshwarat. Atmanas sarva bhutanam bhayam tivram nivartate. Na, not. Anyatra, otherwise. Mat, than myself. Bhagavataha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pradhana, Purusha, Ishwarat, the Lord of both Prakriti and Purusha. Atmanaha, the soul. Sarvabhutanam, of all living beings. Bhayam, fear. Tivram, terrible. Nivartate, is forsaken. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. The terrible fear of birth and death can never be forsaken by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than myself. For I am the Almighty Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original source of all creation, and also the Supreme Soul of all souls. Four things Lord Kapila is telling. I am the Almighty Lord. I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am the original source of all creation. I am the Supreme Soul of all souls. So please repeat the translation after me. The terrible fear of birth and death can never be forsaken. Forsaken means you can never become free. You can never give up this fear by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than myself. For I am the Almighty Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original source of all creation, and also the Supreme Soul of all souls. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is indicated herein that the cycle of birth and death cannot be stopped unless one is a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord. It is said, Harim vina na sritim taranti. What is written there? Mritim. Mritim is not correct, it is sritim. I checked in prabhupadbooks.com. There it is written sritim. This is the original verse. Harim vina na sritim taranti. One cannot surpass the cycle of birth and death unless one is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the meaning of this. Harim vina na sritim. Sritim means this cycle of birth and death. Sriti. The same concept is confirmed herewith. One may take to the system of understanding the absolute truth by one's own imperfect sensory speculation. Or one may try to realize the self by the mystic yoga process. But whatever one may do, unless he comes to the point of surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no process can give him liberation. One may ask if this means that those who are undergoing so much penance and austerity by strictly following the rules and regulations are endeavoring in vain. The answer is given by Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 2nd chapter, 32nd verse. Ye anye aravindaksha vimuktamaninaha. Lord Brahma and other demigods prayed to the Lord when Krishna was in the womb of Devaki. What did they pray? My dear lotus-eyed Lord, Arvindaksha, lotus-eyed Lord. Arvinda means lotus. There are persons who are puffed up with the thought that they have become liberated or one with God or have become God. But in spite of thinking in such a puffed up way, their intelligence is not laudable. Laudable means praiseworthy. Their intelligence is not praiseworthy. They are less intelligent. It is stated that their intelligence, whether high or low, is not even purified. Avishuddha buddhaya. That's a Sanskrit. Bhagavad Gita therefore confirms that purified intelligence arises in the person of a very wise man. So Bhagavad Gita describes a wise man as Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan. Jnanavan means wise man. Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. After many births, one who is actually advanced in intelligence surrenders unto the Supreme Lord. Without this surrendering process, one cannot achieve liberation. The Bhagavatam says, those who are simply puffed up, thinking themselves liberated by some non-devotional process, are not polished or clear in intelligence, for they have not yet surrendered unto you. In spite of executing all kinds of austerities and penances, or even arriving at the brink of spiritual realization. Brink means very near, almost reached self-realization, spiritual realization, in Brahman realization. They think that they are in the effulgence of Brahman, Brahma Jyoti, Brahman effulgence. But actually, because they have no transcendental activities, they fall down to material activities. Patantyadho. One should not be satisfied simply with knowing that one is Brahman. He must engage himself in the service of the Supreme Brahman. That is bhakti. Some devotees are feeling very sleepy because my voice is like a drone. So some suggestions somebody can give. Those who are awake can give some suggestions how you are awake. Well, people like me are struggling to remain awake. Sudama Prabhu, what suggestion you have? No suggestions. Satyajit, you haven't? No, walking, yeah. Walking is one suggestion, but any other suggestion? Yeah, that works, but may not work. Yeah, Krishnendu is telling, try to take down notes. That may help. Not that may help, that will help. Or something else. What does the Bhagavatam say? How you can remain awake? How you can remain alert? Eagerness to hear. Before eagerness to hear, at least try to hear. You should try to hear. How do you try to hear? Of course, you're sitting here and hearing only. But still, attempt to hear. You have to make a very serious attempt to hear. This hearing is not like ordinary hearing. This is special hearing. What is the special hearing? Special hearing is that it is not just merely the ears are being engaged. No, it's not enough. That is not enough. In fact, you need not even engage the ears. The ear, this ear, is a mechanical arrangement. Why I say mechanical arrangement? Because there are sound vibrations in the air. Like fan is now rotating and some light sound is coming. That sound vibration, it falls on the eardrum. And the eardrum vibrates. That happens regardless of whether you try to hear or don't try to hear. But when the eardrum vibrates, it will send one signal to the brain. The signal called sound signal. The scientists have discovered all this, okay? And then the brain will respond. The brain will respond with another signal. And the brain will say, oh, this is the sound vibration of the fan. So, in spite of this mechanical process working, perfectly it works. Not that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But we have experienced, sometimes we don't hear. Just like many of you, or almost all of you, when you're hearing me, you don't take note of that sound of the fan. How is that? That is because you are not attempting to hear the sound of the fan. Whereas you are hearing me because you are attempting to hear me. You're putting in conscious endeavor. Cheshta. Cheshta. So, 5 factors of action Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita. So, sitting and hearing Bhagavatam is actually a activity. It is a spiritual activity. So, spiritual activity means active hearing, not passive hearing. What is passive hearing? I'm not sitting here to hear that fan. But still, I hear the fan. So, this is passive hearing. You are not putting any endeavor. You don't have to put endeavor. Why you have to hear the fan sound? That's not required. Whereas, to hear Bhagavatam, you have to put active effort, active endeavor. You have to lend your ears, Prabhupada says. Lend your ears, give your ears. Your ears means your inner ears, not this ear. This year anyway, all of you have given. That's why you come here. You're sitting and hearing. But active hearing is giving your internal ears. Internal ears is the ear which is linked up to your consciousness. To your consciousness. Attention. Attention. Attentive hearing. Active hearing means attentive hearing. Give your attention. So to give your attention, what you have to do? Something you have to do. That what you have to do is called cheshta by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. For successful accomplishment of an action, if you are successfully hear Bhagavatam, you have to endeavor. You have to put in some cheshta. What is that cheshta? That means you should give your consciousness, your soul, your heart, you have to give for this activity of hearing. So what happens? Because somebody may not be giving their heart for hearing, then what happens? The attention or the consciousness will default go into some other endeavor. Some other endeavor. And what is the other endeavor? In Bhagavatam class especially, relaxing. Nice breeze is there. Wonderful arrangement. It's not so hot. Outside is hot, but inside is not so hot. Right? You got up early in the morning, and then by this time, 5 hours are over. So after 5 hours of, actively doing sadhana, cleansing the body, all those things, now little relaxation. Little relaxation. Konjo. So that little relaxation is so very nice. Why not relax some more time? Few more seconds. So gradually that relaxation goes into dozing off. Whereas when your active endeavor, active hearing, your conscious endeavor, if it is there, then you don't go into relaxation. You don't go into relaxation. So, before sitting for the Bhagavatam class, you make one sankalpa. Make one sankalpa. What is sankalpa? What am I going to do actively next 45 minutes? Till what time is the class supposed to go on? 9 o'clock. Okay, 8:05 to 9. 55 minutes. So 55 minutes, my sankalpa is I am going to actively sit and hear the class. Actively I am going to sit and hear the class. Make this sankalpa. Sankalpa means what you are going to do positively. But there should also be vikalpa. What I should not do. I should not relax. I should not think of something else. I should not give attention to some thoughts that may come in my mind without my conscious endeavor. Like suddenly somebody walks into this temple hall who has not come for a very long time. And you see this person, oh, this person has been coming regularly, had been coming regularly, but now of late not coming regularly. I have to find out why he is not coming regularly. So the thought will come when you just look at that person. But if you don't look at the person, it's likely that the thought may not come. It's likely. In any case, whether you look at the person or don't look at the person, the conscious attention to be not diverted towards so many other things in this hall. So many other sounds, so many other sights, so many other smells, so many other things happening. You should actually vikalpa. I will not give my attention to anything else. This vikalpa is also important. Sankalpa, vikalpa. This is called determination. This is called determination. So Krishna says, if you are to execute pure devotional service, yesham tu antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dhridavrataha. Dhridavrataha means with determination. Vrata means I must do that. No excuse for not doing, for not being able to do. No excuse. Dhridavrataha. So that Dhridavrata means before you begin the activity, sankalpa and vikalpa. Two things you have to consider. So I will actively hear the class and I will not give my attention, divert my attention to anything else. So this sankalpa and vikalpa, definitely if you seriously do that, then you will sit and actually hear very nicely. You'll sit and hear nicely. So try this. Practice this. Practice this. Okay? So where was I? One should not be satisfied simply with knowing that one is Brahman. He must engage himself in the service of the Supreme Brahman. That is bhakti. The engagement of Brahman should be the service of Parabrahman. It is said that unless one becomes Brahman, one cannot serve Brahman. The Supreme Brahman is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the living entity is also Brahman. Without realization that he is Brahman, Brahman means spirit soul, an eternal servitor of the Lord. If one simply thinks that he is Brahman, his realization is only theoretical. He has to realize at the same time engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. Then he can exist in the Brahman status. Otherwise, he falls down. The Bhagavatam says that because non-devotees neglect the transcendental loving service of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, anadruta yushmadangrayaha, that's what the Bhagavatam says. Their intelligence is not sufficient, and therefore these persons fall down. The living entity must have some activity. If he does not engage in the activity of transcendental service, he must fall down to material activity. It's like you're sitting for hearing Bhagavatam class. What is that? Transcendental activity. Now, if you don't engage consciously in this transcendental activity, you must fall down into the material activity of nicely dozing off, relaxing, giving your attention to some other thought, something else that is happening. As soon as one falls down to material activity, there is no rescue from cycle of birth and death. It is stated here by Lord Kapila, without my mercy, nanyatra mad bhagavataha. The Lord is stated here to be Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, indicating that he is full of all opulences and is therefore perfectly competent to deliver one from the cycle of birth and death. He is also called Pradhana because he is the Supreme. He is equal to everyone, but to one who surrenders to him, he is especially favorable. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the Lord is equal to everyone. No one is his enemy and no one is his friend. But what to one who surrenders unto him, he is especially inclined. By the grace of the Lord, simply by surrendering unto him, one can get out of this cycle of birth and death. Otherwise, one may go on in many, many lives and may many times attempt other processes for liberation. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Galadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Lord Kapila is instructing Mother Devahuti the glories of devotional service. So one of the glories of devotional service is that simply by taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can very easily become free from the terrible fear of birth and death. That means one doesn't have to die or take birth again. One can become free from that. That means you become liberated. You become completely liberated. You become fully liberated. You achieve ultimate liberation. So simply by surrendering to Krishna, surrendering to the Supreme Lord. Now this surrender itself is only there in bhakti. It's not there in other processes of self-realization. Surrender is not there. But the scriptures say our position is to surrender. If we don't surrender to Krishna, we have to be surrendered to someone other than Krishna. And that someone other than Krishna, to whom we are forced to surrender if we don't surrender to Krishna. Who is that someone other than Krishna? That is Maya. And we are in the kingdom of Maya. Kingdom of Maya. Durga Devi rules this material world. She rules the material world. She is the creator, maintainer and destroyer of the entire material creation. She is very, very powerful. Srishti, Sthiti, Pralaya, Sadhana, Shakti, Reka, Chayeva, Yasya, Bhuvanani, Vibharti, Durga. Of course, this verse says in the process of creation, maintenance and destruction, Srishti, Sthiti, Pralaya, Durga Devi is able to do that by becoming an agent of Krishna. But nevertheless, even though she is acting as agent, directly she is doing this business of creation, maintenance and destruction by employing her gunas. Employing the gunas. Not her gunas. Employing the material energy in the form of the three gunas. She is creating, maintaining and destroying whole material creation. It is very, very powerful. So, we are stuck up in this cycle of birth and death that simply when destruction happens, we die. When creation happens, we are born. And in between this birth and death, we are maintained. And this is going on. Cyclically it goes on. Perpetually it goes on. It is not going to stop. It will not stop. It will go on. So then how do we get out? If it is not going to stop, oh, I'll try to stop it. No, you cannot stop. You cannot stop. But the Supreme Controller, the Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, what all is told by Lord Kapila? The Almighty Lord. Almighty means very, very, very powerful. Supremely powerful. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Supreme Person. But in what category? In the category of Godhead. You know why Prabhupada says Godhead, doesn't say God? What is the answer? Satyajit. Huh? Yeah. Head of all gods. There are many gods. God means in the sense of controller. There are many controllers. They are also called Ishvara. Ishvara. So Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishnaha. Head. Paramaha. Supreme. Parameshwara. Paramaha, Ishvara. Combine that. He is called Parameshwara. He is distinguished from other Ishwaras. That he is Parameshwara. Others are just Ishwaras. Parameshwara is Krishna. All living entities are Brahman. But Krishna is Parabrahman. All living entities are Atma. But Krishna is Paramatma. So Krishna is distinguished. Parameshwara, Parabrahman, Paramatma, Paramdhama, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam, Pavitram Paramam, Param Pavitra, Parama Purusha. Purusha in the sense of enjoyer. We are enjoyers. Krishna is also enjoyer. But Krishna is Param Purusha, supreme enjoyer. Like that. These distinctions are there in the scriptures. But some places, like in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, while describing his opulences in the material world to Arjuna, Krishna says, he begins by telling, Aham Atma. He says, I'm Atma. So that Atma word, it means soul. But Krishna is not just another soul, like we are all souls. Therefore, supreme soul of all souls, Atmanaha Sarva Bhutanam, the soul among all souls, the soul. And in the Bhagavad Gita, even though Krishna says Aham Atma, he clarifies. He is different from all other Atmas. How? Aham Atma Gudakesha Sarva Bhutashaya Sthitaha. Same thing Kapila is telling. Atmanaha Sarva Bhutanam. I am the soul in all living entities. Present in all living entities. Within every living entity there is a soul. But within every living entity also there is the soul, the supreme soul, Paramatma. So, Atmanas Sarva Bhutanam, soul among all souls, the supreme soul of all souls. And Pradhana Purusha Ishwarat. Pradhana Purusha Ishwara. Ishwara means the Lord. What is used here? The Lord of both Prakriti and Purusha. Pradhana refers to Prakriti, material nature. Prakriti here refers to material nature. Purusha are the living beings, the enjoyers in this world. Pradhana Purusha Ishwarat. Ishwara. So, the Supreme Personality or the Supreme Lord of all energies, Prakriti and Purusha. Prakriti is specifically material nature. Of material nature and the living entities, the enjoyers. So that Supreme Lord is Lord Kapila, Lord Krishna. And also, Bhagavataha, Bhagavan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavan, Bhagavataha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, among the controllers, there are many controllers, but Parameshwara or Paramapurusha, Paramatma, Param Brahma is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, who is Krishna or Lord Kapila, and he is supremely powerful, almighty. So therefore, he can very easily, as Prabhupada says here, he is perfectly competent to deliver one from the cycle of birth and death. So we cannot stop this cycle of birth and death. It is beyond our power to do so. And we don't want to suffer this repetition of birth and death. So, if you surrender to Krishna, Krishna will take you out and place you in his personal abode. Krishna will do that. You surrender to him. So that's what Lord Kapila is telling here. Other than surrender to Krishna or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no other way we can get out of this cycle of birth and death. And in the original Vedas, it is just said, Harim Vina Hari refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Harim vina na sritim taranti. One cannot surpass the cycle of birth and death unless one is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Prabhupada is quoting one Bhagavad Gita verse to tell, whom does the Lord favor? Because as the Supreme Lord, He is Samoham Sarva Bhuteshu Name Dvesho Asti Na Priyaha. Prabhupada is quoting that in English. The Lord is equal to everyone. No one is His enemy. Name Dvesho Asti Na Priyaha. No one is His friend. Priya in the sense of friend. But Ye bhajanti tu. Tu means but. Ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya. But one who surrenders unto Him, he is especially inclined. Mayi te teshu chapyaham. So he is especially inclined. So therefore, Prabhupada says, by the grace of the Lord, simply by surrendering unto Him, one can get out of this cycle of birth and death. All of you heard this many, many times. This is nothing new that you are hearing, what Lord Kapila is telling. But how do we actually surrender? This is very important. How do we actually surrender? Surrender in such a way that the Lord will be especially inclined and He will pull us out of this cycle of birth and death. Immediately. Immediately. He'll do it. So what should we do to actually really surrender? So you can give some suggestions. How can one actually surrender to Krishna? We have some understanding of surrender. Follow the instructions of spiritual master. Yes. Surrender simply means follow the instructions. Surrender to Krishna means follow Krishna's instructions. But Krishna's instructions are many in the Bhagavad Gita, in the original Vedas, in the Upanishads, in the Puranas, Dharma Shastras. So many instructions are there. So therefore, it's not easy to follow the instructions of Krishna which He has given in the Shastra. But the spiritual master gives very specific instructions. He gives very specific instructions. Some few he selects. Again, based on Shastra, he selects and tells you do this. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu playing the role of spiritual master, he said, chant Hare Krishna. That's all he said. Chant Hare Krishna. So there are so many instructions. But as spiritual master, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, chant Hare Krishna. So somebody who is chanting Hare Krishna on the instruction of Srila Prabhupada, then they are surrendered. They surrender to Prabhupada because they're following Prabhupada's instructions. And because Prabhupada is the representative of Krishna, therefore they are surrendered to Krishna also. So surrender to Krishna means to chant Hare Krishna. But the chanting has to be of a certain quality, certain quantity. What should I chant? How many times should I chant? How should I chant? Where should I chant? Why should I chant? Okay, why should I chant? Okay, for surrendering to Krishna. for getting out of the cycle of birth. How should I chant? Where can I chant? All these questions are answered by Prabhupada. It is there in the Shastra. But in the Shastra, it's like there, so many different places. Simple, concise, precise, exact instructions you can't find in the Shastra. No. So you have to hear or follow Prabhupada. He gives very, 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 very precise instructions. So, mainly in this chanting, we have to avoid offenses against holy name. We have to avoid offenses. Avoid offenses against holy name. We have to avoid offenses against Vaishnavas. We have to avoid offenses against deity. We have to avoid offenses against spiritual master, Guru Aparad. Then Nama Aparad, Seva Aparad. Seva Aparad is particularly deity worship. Or against deity. So all these aparads we have to avoid. So how to avoid these different offenses? That is also taught by Srila Prabhupada. So he teaches by his own example, he teaches by giving instructions, specific instructions. So the acharyas, predecessor acharyas, especially Srila Rupa Goswami, he has given a book called Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Prabhupada has translated that, the nectar of devotion. In that, the process of bhakti is explained very nicely, very clearly. So in order to avoid these offenses, we have to supplement this chanting Hare Krishna with so many other activities. So these other activities, already 9.6, last point. These other activities are necessary because without these other activities, default our engagement is some material activity which is simply offense. So in order to avoid offense, we have to stop material activities, or rather replace material activities with varieties of other spiritual activities. Because we are unable to chant 24 hours a day, like Haridas Thakur was doing. So therefore, in the beginning, you have to supplement, you have to add other activities, like taking prasadam, like having darshan of deity, like taking charanamrit, like hearing Bhagavatam. So many other activities you can supplement. Broadly, they are described in the Bhakti Sam Sindhu as the process of sadhana bhakti consisting of 64 different items. 64 different items. So as many as you can, you try to replace material activities with different varieties of spiritual activity. This variety is for two reasons, if not more. One is that we may feel it's very difficult for me to do only one activity continuously. Very difficult. Unless we have taste, we cannot all the time be chanting. In the beginning, we don't have taste. So we cannot do that all the time chanting. So variety, different kinds of activities. Also, this variety is necessary to engage our body, our words, and our mind. We perform any activity through these three agencies. We act through our body. Body means Body means the 10 senses. The 5 senses of action and the 5 senses of perception. Jnanendriya, karmendriya. So to engage the 10 senses in activity, that's called engaging, working through the body, acting through the body. The 10 senses have to be engaged. So varieties of activities, just like you smell the incense offered to the Lord, that is engaging your nose. You have darshan of the deity, engaging your eyes. You taste prasadam, engaging your tongue. You chant Hare Krishna, that is also engaging the tongue. Tongue is both Jnanendriya and Karmendriya. So when you taste prasadam, that is Jnanendriya, tasting function of the tongue. And when you chant Hare Krishna by vibrating the tongue, that is Karmendriya. Active engagement of the voice function. So, like this, 10 senses you engage. What are the activities for the 10 senses in devotional service, in bhakti? So that is listed by Rupa Goswami. Listed by Rupa Goswami. In Bhakti Rasam Sindhu. Prabhupada explains that. And then engaging the body, the words, we keep speaking. So many things we speak. Words mean speaking. So you speak or you vibrate the tongue as much as possible in relationship with Krishna, in connection with Krishna. Krishna Katha. So how to do that? That is also instructed by the spiritual master. And 64 activities comprises different activities for the body, for the words, and for the mind. For the mind, Krishna says, think of me always. Manmana. Think of me always. So Prabhupada says, how to think of Krishna always in this age, Kali Yuga? By constantly chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So constantly if you try to engage your body, words and mind in Krishna's service according to the direction of the Bhakti Rasam Sindhu, then you can get out of this, you can surrender to Krishna in that way and you can get out of this materialist. I'll stop here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki.